I'll just introduce these people. Most of you do know, but maybe you don't. This guy is well known. He's over here with us, all the camera work. That's Eric Recklin. And then myself over here. This is Dave Marsh. Now, Dave Marsh is very active in the LA Orange County group. And Dave and I have an interesting background of how we met. I was at HPCalc. At the time, Dave was working for the company that did in those days, they had a machine for shipping, and so he was serviced as that machine, and I met him, we got to talking, oh, you like calculators and so forth. Of course, we know Joe Horn, Vladik, Jake, Gene, and this is Gary Tenzer. And Gary Tenzer is similar to Gene in that they both work in the finance world. Now, maybe I'm thinking something that you don't think about, but aside from documenting our documenting activity for the last, at least for me, 50 years, there's one theme or one mantra that I kept preaching to HP again and again and again. Can anybody think what that might be? Any ideas? None? Oh, okay, it would be this. HP, you make these nice products. We have these very enthusiastic users of your products, and you should take more advantage of that. In all my dealings with HP, that's the message that I tried to convey to them. And it wasn't until CES, when Fred Valdez took over calculators, and those days, Jake and I did it together. We'd go to CES, and one of the reasons I would go to CES, Jake has multiple reasons. He loves equipment and all that stuff. But for me, one of the prime reasons was it was an opportunity, because being close to where I lived, an opportunity to meet with the HP people. And over the years, we had all kinds of meetings and, even doing certain things to help set up their booth. So, went to CES in January of 2006, and Fred Valdez had taken over calculators. Now, I'll just briefly mention why that is. A lot of the people in the user community, being interested, you kind of look at what HP's doing. Remember the year that HP was talking about maybe selling one of their divisions? Do you remember that? Yeah. Okay. That was the year that Calculator would be part of the group that HP was thinking of selling. And for the conference of that year, we realized that if that was sold, the new owner may have a whole different attitude towards supporting a user group. So that year, and I don't remember what it was, Jake might come up with the year, when we had the conference, I used the term conference donation. In other words, you all paid, all of us, $120 this year, the highest ever. And that's what I call the conference donation. And we don't try to make a profit. I'm in the minority in terms of the committee that we have about $4,400 in the bank that's reserved for doing these conferences. And most people say, well, that's not bad. There's nothing wrong with that. The only problem is I'm the one responsible, and I don't like that responsibility. So anyway,
but you won't let go of it.
What?
Nothing. I didn't say anything.
Okay. So with all of this discussion and background, with my involvement with the HP people, and it's been a little bumpy, but in general, I believe that the calculator people compared to the computer people, the microwave people, all of that, of all of the HP products as a company, that they were a little bit different in their corporate thinking, if I can express it that way. Partly because calculators are unique and calculators are personal. And anytime you're going out to shows or what have you, I'm thinking over the total history of calculators, you're meeting with the users, the end users. So, remember last year I talked about the letter that we wrote to HP just before Bill Hill had died. Do you remember that? And the whole, we started out with 60 active users, more than you in this room, to draft this letter because we are very concerned that HP is going to scrub calculators. Over the years, we've had those situations. We were concerned as active users, we wanted more and better calculators. And if HP goes away, well, you know, TI, Casio, sure, you know, HP's the best. So, personally, I've always been concerned with that situation, if you wish. All right? And I can't quite remember, usually when an event happens, if you research it, you've heard the expression, the straw that broke the camel's back. Well, when did a straw get added? You know, how big was the straw? Because it's very important. This little straw caused a catastrophic event. So I can't remember exactly what caused my thinking to become a belief to take action. And the action I'm talking about is the formation of a group of users that would organize, set up a kind of a set of rules, and take this group of people and approach HP with an idea. All right? And I'm starting with this slide because these are the 8 users that were part of this group. Now, can I go? All right? And I called the group the X group. It's not the X team. It's not it's not X team. It's not A team. The X group. What is the X group? Well, it's a small volunteer group of very experienced HP enthusiasts to consult with HP. Oh, see, I'm old enough and I see enough thing, and my memory's not so good, that I used to say a few years ago, now I say a few decades ago, you know. 2003, Jake and I met with Fred Valdez at CES. We had lunch, and the idea of the X group was presented to Fred. Now, Fred, unlike previous managers, he had a different attitude. He was more enthusiastic. He agreed with it, in part because Fred, in his master's thesis, addressed this issue. In his master's thesis, which was very well known in the HP management. And he pitched the idea that calculators need to do things differently, which meant making the machines in China and so forth. After nearly a year, when we're pushing this idea, first of all, Fred said, you know, I'm not technical, and I'm taking over this calculator group, and I am going to hire somebody who is more technical and handle more details, and we really should have this discussion after I hired that person. And for several months, who is this going to be? How are we going to approach this person? What will be their ideas and what have you? And it ended up March, January, February, March, 3 months. It was Sam Kim. And Sam had been a PPC member. Sam loved calculators. Sam wanted to be working in the calculator group at HP. This was a career goal. Oh, it was like a miracle. So when we got started, Jake, I don't remember how. I remember we worked with a lot of people in Australia. Did HP move to Australia at that time? They were coming back from Australia. Oh, coming back. Well, anyway, so since we were proposing something that apparently HP corporates was, different and unusual, and we're asking for something that no customer has ever asked before. And so they spent a lot of time trying to decide what kind of a relationship could be developed between HP and the X group. So the obvious thing, and many of you here, as part of this relationship with HP, that we started having HP presentations and having you attendees sign NDAs. That was a big step. Even the committee at that time struggled among themselves with how should it be done? What if Brian says, I don't want to sign that? Do we make Brian leave the room for an hour and a half while we talk about super secret things? All kinds of issues and questions came up. So the normal NDA, and what's the other one? CDA, the more modern term CDA, the non-disclosure agreement was signed, and we proceeded. Xers have 4 primary areas of expertise, here, okay, like here's Gary Tenzer and Gene. These are finance guys, all right? Here's Jake. Jake and Vladik have similar interests, broader, so forth. Joseph and Dave Marsh, how do I?
Have nothing in common.
Yeah. And then, anyway, from an organizational perspective, the idea was 4 major areas of expertise, and 2 people in that area of expertise wanted to back the other one up. So 4 primary areas of expertise, 2 members each. An extensive bibliography of each member was also provided. I couldn't find that. I would have included that. But I think I asked each person to have something like 10. How long have you had? When did you buy your first calculator? How long and so forth? So that I could come up with some sales points to sell the X group to HP. Now, I considered an important aspect of the X group that it be secret. And you can discuss that, why that, and so forth. I actually made some justification here. The primary reason was to avoid a conflict of interest. Let's suppose that Richard Schwartz is part of the design team of New Model X, and he knows everything about New Model X. Well, if he's here, do you think we're not going to bug him with questions about New Model X? No. So that Richard wouldn't be put on the spot, we don't know that he's involved. That's the primary reason. HP users would bug Xers confidential questions. HP would know this and not reveal our existence. I requested that. And on 2 conferences, one of the HP speakers mentioned the X group, and I thought, but it went over the head, nobody really knew, no problem. This policy would just make everything simpler. Now, whether you agree with that or not, that was just what I thought was the best way to go about it. Now here's the total list of X group members over 16 years. We operated as an X group for about 16 years. All right, Joseph Horn, we all know him. Dave Marsh, I mentioned. We all know Vladik. Hopefully Vladik will be here next year. He's had a bumpy family life and health issues and what have you, but it looks better than ever for Vladik to join us next year. Myself, Bob, Eric, Jake, Namir is back here. David Shear. David Shear was living in Southern California, very active on the local level for the calculators. He also actually took responsibility for one conference in Los Angeles. Gary Tenzer and Gene Wright. The two diamond ones, these people joined later, and the two club ones are, yes, people who, because if you're a member of the X group, it's like you hire on for a new job, and it took a lot of time. And Gary and David Shear, they had their own businesses going, and they just couldn't spend the time. They had a lot of interest, but no time. X group projects. Alpha and beta testing. Respond to specific topics asked of HP. So HP, over time, it became known amongst the management of HP that here is a resource available to them. Competitor product analysis. Well, we're enthusiasts. Gene is a good example of, he knows quite a bit about TI calculators as well as HP. Well, Gene is part of the X group. When it comes to product analysis and comparison, Gene is probably as good as you get, right? Editing and proofing a manual is kind of obvious. Writing manuals and apps. Even photography of HP machines. And I threw that in there only of a personal experience that I had. I'm sitting at home. I don't remember the year, but the year was the year that the 35th anniversary of the 35, yeah, that was it, where IEEE was going to award HP a special award for engineering excellence or something. And that was held at HP Corporate in San Francisco. And I got a call from somebody I didn't know. We're doing this, and can you provide us with a photo of the 35? Kind of a strange request because anybody knows there are a jillion 35 photos around. Why would they? Anyway, it doesn't matter why. So when I, thinking about that, what do I put in the display? This became a hobbyist user interesting aspect, and I even had a contest on the internet and so forth to arrive at that number. And I took the photograph and I sent it, and then I asked more about it, and they said, well, this will be part of the invitation for certain guests at this procedure, because it was going to be a 3 or 4 hour event, including lunch. And I'm in Arizona. That's a 2-day drive up there. Anyway, I won't go all the details of that. And I really struggled with, is that important for me to take 5 days of my life and expense to make it happen? I thank God that I did. It was really great. Yes, Jay?
You called me on the phone and you said, do you think I should go to this? And I said, absolutely. You must go.
Okay, let's see. Assisting public events, conferences, etc. Okay, now, attached or associated with this presentation on your USB drive is a 61-page, more detailed examples and so forth. The actual description of the X group is 5 pages. The rest are all appendices, and some of which I have here. So you can, if you're interested, you know, spend some time at least perusing. 61 pages is a lot of stuff, right? Here's an example of an HP inquiry. This was done in 2004, May 5th. New IR printer ideas. Now these inquiries from HP were single-page things that they emailed, you know, and so there was a lot of space that I took away because I squeezed 2 examples onto 1 page. So this would be another page, and it would have all this header stuff. Current comments of existing product 82240B, HPIR thermal product. Portability, reliable, sturdy, dual power supply source, battery, external. What other features, functions must have? Key features that the users find most important, and so forth. Tony, and Tony was an HP guy in Australia that he was involved at that time. Then the other one is new high-end finance ideas, current comments, trig, so forth. Gene kept hammering HP. TI makes a financial calculator, but they include scientific functions. Why doesn't HP's best financial calculator include more scientific functions? Stuff like this. What other features, functions must have, and so forth. Now, Sam taking over, and he has authority for spending money. I mean, he's the top guy, right? And so it's his decisions to do something. And I don't remember the details, but we all discussed it for some time, and we decided that Los Angeles would be the location. It ended up that we were going to use Gary Tenser's business, which is, Jake, was it on 3rd or 4th or 5th floor or something of a building? Yeah, and they had shut down the air conditioning over the weekend. So in order to get it air conditioned, Gary had to make requests and so forth. Well, it ended up that it cost money, hundreds of dollars. HP spent hundreds of dollars. So this is a meeting. Here's Eric. Here's Sam Kim. This guy is GT Springer, the bald-headed guy. You know who that is. And this is Gary Tenser. This is Cyril. This is Gene, and this is Dave Marsh. And the empty chair here is Joe Horn, and he's taking the photograph. Any questions pop up, we'll try to get them answered. Now, this is an overview, a context shot to see what's going on. And on the screen, now there's a projector somewhere here on that screen. Okay, this is a close-up of that screen. What HP needs from the X team. Your energy, thoughts, and ideas, given our market segments and product categories. How do we delight our customers? What does customer experience look like? While focusing on the larger market rather than tiny niches, how do we enable the niche market? This was an 8-hour meeting. This was serious stuff, both for HP and fun for us, right? Now here's another shot, this is GT Sprinter here. And GT wrote a couple articles for HP Solve. I don't know you remember, Jake, what his actual job was at HP? It's kind of a technical guy. Don't remember, okay. But he's a nice guy and very friendly and very experienced. And I included this photo, Jake's photos, by the way, because it gives an idea. Here, a bunch of calculators. You can see this binder. Did I prepare that binder, Jake? Do you remember? Anyways, the collection of documents, everybody has one. Here's Sam looking at his, mine is on the table here. Here's some HP literature. Here's nuts and stuff, coffee cup. Oh, here's the projector. So this was a 7 or 8 hour meeting. Okay, here's another screen, I think. Yeah, here's a close-up of the screen. A proposal for an advanced mid-range scientific calculator. Remember, this is in 2006. Some calculator development guidelines. They list all of the features here. I won't go through them. Documenting the X group. This is a snippet from
Last year.
from something I prepared as a kind of like a report to the X group and what have you. Documenting the X group. There are so many files among us. Oh, okay, this is, I forgot where this is from.
This is from the 61-page document.
The 61 what?
The 61-page document.
Yes, but that is only from the file that went back previous years. Anyway, okay, so there's the, okay, I forgot where it's at. Maybe you may be right, Bob. So there are 5 pages, 56 pages of appendices. After I'd done this and sent it to Eric, I called Sam Kim, and I was trying to get certain facts and things together. I was inspired to write the extensive HPCalc Technical Note number 64 about the IR printer. And I brought all known documents from HP and elsewhere into that document. It was kind of a compilation. Special thanks to Jake, Dave Marsh for sending me some of their files. Now, this is a slide from last year, and I want to finish up with a question to you on your opinion. These are what I consider major documentation projects, because people say, well, what do you do, or what do you like to do? Rather than say technical writer, I realize that I'm not very good as a technical writer, but I do like to document things, so I'm a documenter. And these are documentation projects. There are 9 of them. Would you think that it would be useful, you would like to see it happen? Because what I can do is I can go to all the X group members and ask them to send me their files. Jake, how many files do you think you might have? Close to 1,000 files in all? If you consider videos and audio recordings and a whole ball of wax?
Related to the X group or in general?
I can't hear you.
What kind of files are we talking?
All files.
Just
Well,
X group, right? Just X group.
just X group, yes.
I probably only have about 50. But one thing I do have is the videotape of that meeting.
Oh, you do?
It's like 8 hours long, yeah.
See, I want to ask you to send that to me. I find that interesting. Would you find the X group stuff interesting? Okay. Well, raise your hand. Okay, so maybe 2/3. All right, we'll think about it because it's a lot of work.
Just a question. The NDA is expired, right?
I'd go with yes.
The NDA is actually one of the appendices of that 61 files. I believe it has, yes. And that's another question that came up. I got a lot of flack from Gene, who in those 61 pages, I have correspondence emails. Some of those people are no longer living. They certainly don't have the same email address, but these days, the sensitivity to one's privacy is much higher. I don't care, I'm transparent, doesn't matter to me. But that attitude gets me in trouble sometimes. I want to make special thanks to Sam Kim, because of all the people I've interacted with from the very beginning, in June 1974, when for me, publicly, this whole activity started, of all the general managers and other people at HP, Sam Kim is like a floodlight in the darkness. He was bright, friendly, considerate, a great manager, organizer, but I don't believe that HP overall really appreciated him. So Sam was a director and then GM for HP Calculators, and in an HP structure, a director is a major prestige position to have. Sam was a PPC member of Seattle who worked in printers, which was down in Seattle, down near San Diego. Sam loved calculators and immediately embraced the X group. When calculators merged with accessories, which I use accessories because you would know what that term is. In the documentation, there's another name for it. Huh? Attach, yeah, the attach group. It's the accessories, it's keyboards and mice and all that kind of stuff. But HP structure, they call it the attached group. His position was junior to the similar position when you merge two companies. Do you need two presidents? No. One president has to go. One calculator manager had to go. And HP lost. Not that the person who was there wasn't competent, but they were not a loving, dedicated calculator person that Sam was. Sam was friendly and very easy to work with. Sam investigated I didn't really check with Sam, but I talked to him 2 days before I came here. When that happened, Sam investigated a means to save HP calculators because the path was obviously downhill. Remember, Jake, we had all this discussion about what we could do to help Sam and what, were there money and big investment people needed, and HP management totally ignored him. And that end. Any questions? Yes?
This was obviously a secret group, and now it isn't. What happened to end the group and to let you make the decision?
I have the dates, and it's in the document. The dates, the beginning and end. 2019 was the end. I declared the end because nothing was happening. And we're there to help people who care about calculators, and nobody seemed to be really caring about calculators. And I can say the same thing today. Oh yeah, Dan is, doing his job and what have you. But there's a difference between the guy who invented something and he's pushing it forward than the guy who becomes president of the company that's trying to go forward. Jake?
Yeah, the way we kept in touch with them were conference calls, were like 8 or 10 people on a conference call. We had almost 20 of those over the years. And then the people started dwindling away. And when it was back down to just Cyril and Tim, they were on the call. Tim was running it at the end. And then finally, Tim ended up in Taipei, and Cyril went back to Europe. And suddenly Tim no longer worked on calculators, and Cyril barely does anymore. And I think that was kind of the sign on the wall that there was nobody left to keep us attached to them. So.
Of course, there could be a Y group.
Well,
I'm not saying there is, I'm just saying there could be.
but the ideas and the embellishment of an X group person, you're one of them, right? And there's several others that are working with Swiss Micro, right? I mean, and Swiss Micro, they're not hung up on all these other stuff, but big, gigantic corporate HP, that's a different animal altogether. Small company, gigantic company. Who's that? That's Gene?
Jeff, how many engineering firms were started by accountants?
Oh, God.
Okay, how many engineering firms were started by engineers? All of them. There's a point there. How many are successful engineering companies are there today in the US? And how many of those are run by accountants?
2 and 1.
You got my point?
Yeah, the idea is the person who's really good, they have a vision. We could use that term. They have a vision. The X group had a vision, and we were trying to pursue that vision. HP calculators had very few people who had a vision. Jake.
So at that 2006 meeting, the X group divided up into smaller groups, and we each created a slide presentation on our focus. And at that meeting, we all presented our sections on what we thought should move forward. And I think the fruit of Gene Wright's thing about getting scientific functions onto finance calculators ultimately became the 10B2 Plus that Tim Westman did completely by himself. But those two guys
But
just
also
worked
the 20B
together
and 30B,
intimately
right?
and made it happen.
Jake, also the 20B and 30B?
Yeah, okay, I'm going to take Bob's position here. We got to move on, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.